quick question, and I want an honest answer. What would you have done if you found out that the child you've been taking care of and calling my son for 6 good years is not yours? All your money, time, effort, and emotions you've put into the child. It's crazy for real, but this is the problem that is going on here. Just calm down and listen to this. I still can't wrap my head around what this man did after he found out about this horrific info. Honestly, if it was me, I would have definitely done something crazy, but let's dive into this viewer-submitted story. But hold on before we start. Hope you are subscribed to this channel so you don't miss out on the next stories that I'll be posting. Also, don't forget to turn on the bell notification to be the first person that gets notified when I post new stories, and if at the end you enjoy this story, don't forget to give it a like and share it to someone who needs to hear this. Without saying much, let's dive in already. While hearing my story, I know you're going to call me stupid. You're going to shake your head and maybe even laugh at me. And you know what? I don't care. Because unless you were in my position, unless you've lived the exact life I lived, you wouldn't understand why I did what I did. I know what it looks like from the outside. A foreigner comes to the Philippines, meets a younger woman, falls in love too quickly, and ends up getting played. It's the oldest story in the book, right? But mine is different. Mine hurts in a way I can't even explain properly. For 6 years, I raised a child that I believed was mine. I poured my soul into being a father, into giving him everything I never had, everything I thought he deserved. And then one night, the truth walked right up to my front door and slapped me in the face. But before I take you there, before I tell you about the argument I overheard and the lies that ripped me apart, I need to take you back. Because none of this will make sense if you don't understand how it all started. The first time I stepped foot in the Philippines, I thought I was prepared. I'd read the blogs, watched the YouTube videos, listened to other expats ramble about life out here. But nothing could prepare me for the wall of heat that hit me when I walked out of Ninoy Aquino Airport in Manila. It was thick, sticky, like the air itself was grabbing hold of my skin. Taxis honking, men shouting, kids weaving in and out of the crowd trying to sell me bottled water and SIM cards. For a second, I wondered what the hell I was doing here. I was a middle-aged man, alone, dragging a suitcase across a city I'd never seen, chasing an idea of a life I wasn't even sure existed. Back home, I had nothing. No family of my own, no kids, failed relationships that always ended with the same painful line. I want children, and you can't give me that. That line stuck with me, carved into my soul. Because the truth is, I couldn't. Years ago, a doctor told me straight, my chances of fathering a child naturally were slim to none. I carried that diagnosis like a death sentence. So why was I here? Because I wanted to believe that life still had something left for me. I met her on my 3rd day. It wasn't at a bar, which is what most people will assume. No, she worked at a small eatery near the apartment I rented. I remember walking in, sweat dripping down my back, and there she was, behind the counter, wiping down tables. She looked up, smiled, and said, "Hello, sir." That's all it took. That smile. She wasn't like the women who hung outside the bars at night, calling out to foreigners. She seemed quiet, modest, almost shy. I liked that about her immediately. It made me feel safe, like I wasn't being targeted, like maybe she could actually see me for me. We talked. At first, just the usual. Where I was from, what I was doing in the Philippines, how long I'd stay. Then slowly it became deeper. She told me about her family, about her struggles, about wanting something more in life than just serving food to strangers. There was something in the way she spoke about family that hooked me. She said she dreamed of having a husband who wouldn't just love her, but would also stand by her family, help them when times got hard. She wanted children, laughter in the house, stability. And I thought, this is it. This is what I've been searching for. I started visiting the eatery more often. Sometimes I didn't even eat, I just wanted to see her. She laughed at my bad jokes, she listened to my stories. She made me feel like I mattered, like maybe I wasn't as broken as I thought I was. One evening after she closed up, we walked home together. She told me her father had passed away years ago, that her mother was sick. that she was the one supporting her younger siblings. Her life was hard, but she never once complained. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in my bed, staring at the ceiling fan, spinning slowly above me, and for the first time in years, I imagined a different future. A future with her in it. A wife. A home. A family, just me and her. And that was the beginning. The hook. The moment I stepped into something I didn't know would end up with me raising a child that wasn't mine for good 6 years. When I look back now, I realize how quickly everything moved. But at the time, it felt natural, like it was meant to be. After just a few months of dating, we were already talking about marriage. Her mother liked me immediately. Her siblings smiled whenever I came around, calling me Kuya like I was already part of the family. I didn't see the subtle hints, the small pushes. How her mother always asked about my job, my income, how she sighed about the cost of medicine. I thought it was normal, just part of getting to know each other's lives. The wedding was small. No church, no big ceremony, just a simple gathering, paperwork, a rented space where her family cooked, and neighbors came by to congratulate us. I remember looking at her in her modest white dress, hair pinned back, shy smile on her lips, and thinking, I finally made it. This is home. And with marriage came expectation. We wanted children. Or rather, she did, and I wanted them because she did. She often said, a family isn't complete without children. Those words were knives, even if she didn't mean them to be. You see, there's something I hadn't told her. Something I'd buried so deep I almost pretended it wasn't true. Back home, years ago, I was told by a doctor that I had almost no chance of fathering a child naturally. I lived with that shame, that invisible scar. And when I met her, when I felt young again, I convinced myself maybe the doctor was wrong. Maybe here with her, things would be different. So we tried. Night after night, month after month. At first it was exciting, hopeful. We joked about baby names, imagined who the child would look like. She'd place her hand on her stomach sometimes and smile at me as if she was already willing it into existence. But as the months dragged on, nothing happened. 7 months of marriage and her stomach stayed flat. Her monthly cycle always on time. I saw the worry in her eyes grow. One morning she told me she had gone to the hospital alone. She said she wanted to be sure. The doctor told her she was fine. Completely healthy, no reason she couldn't get pregnant. I asked why she didn't tell me before going, and she avoided my eyes. I didn't want to worry you, she whispered. But in that silence between her words, I heard something else. The unspoken suspicion that maybe I was the problem. And I was. I knew it, but I couldn't tell her. I was terrified that if I admitted it, she'd leave me. After all, wasn't that why my past relationships had failed? Wasn't that why I was here in the first place? Trying to find someone who would accept me despite my flaws? She started changing after that. The smiles came less often. The pressure was there, invisible but heavy. She began dropping hints, reminding me of her dream of children, reminding me that families in the Philippines are built around kids. Sometimes she'd say things like, other couples already have babies by now. I tried to hide my panic. I told myself maybe it would still happen. Maybe all I needed was patience. Maybe a miracle was waiting for us, but miracles don't come just because you want them. At first, those first few weeks of being married felt like stepping into a new life. The kind of life you dream of when you're sitting alone in your apartment in the West, staring at 4 walls, wondering if you'll ever have a family. Here I was in the Philippines, married to a beautiful woman who seemed to love me unconditionally. I woke up with her beside me every morning. I ate meals her mother prepared with love. I walked through her neighborhood and people greeted me by name. For a moment, I forgot my age, my past disappointments, and even the medical truth I had buried for years. But when you're married, people expect the next step. And here in the Philippines, that step is children. At first, it was lighthearted. We'd lie in bed at night and she would giggle, saying, "Maybe tonight is the night." I'd stroke her hair and reply, "Maybe tonight we'll make a baby boy." It was romantic, full of anticipation. We even joked about baby names. She liked biblical ones. I preferred simple ones like Sam or Alex. The first month, nothing happened. We shrugged it off. The second, still nothing. She reassured me. It takes time. But by the third month, the joke started carrying a nervous edge. By the fourth month, she began keeping track of her cycle more carefully. She'd circle dates on the calendar, mark fertile windows, even wake me up at odd hours saying, "Now is the right time." And of course, I never refused. I wanted it just as badly. But every month ended the same way. Disappointment. And with each cycle, I saw her eyes dim a little more. By the fifth month, the whispers began. Not from her directly, but from her family. Her mother would ask casually during dinner, "Any news yet?" with a hopeful smile. Her younger sister once teased her, saying, "Maybe Ate can't have kids." They laughed, but I caught the sharp way my wife's eyes flickered toward me. By the sixth month, the air between us had changed. We weren't just making love anymore, we were working toward a pregnancy, like it was a job. The intimacy was still there, but the joy was gone. I began to dread her monthly sighs when she realized she wasn't pregnant again. One evening I came home to find her sitting on the bed, staring at a piece of paper. She quickly folded it and tucked it under a pillow when she saw me. I asked her what it was, and she just shook her head and said, "Nothing." Later, when she went to shower, I checked. It was a hospital document. The result was clear: she was medically fine. No issues. No reason she couldn't conceive. That was the moment I felt something in me crack, because I knew the truth. I wasn't shocked by the result, and I was terrified. Terrified because I had known since my 30s that my chances of fathering a child were close to zero. But I had hidden it. Hidden it behind charm, behind promises, behind my own wishful thinking that maybe, just maybe, this time would be different. So when she came out of the shower and said softly, "The doctor says I'm okay. Maybe you should get checked too," I just smiled and said, "Yes, maybe later." But inside I was screaming. I couldn't tell her. I couldn't admit it. Because what if she left me? What if she told her family, her friends, the whole neighborhood? What if they all started whispering about the foreigner who wasn't man enough to give his wife a child? So I kept silent. And in my silence, I watched her grow more restless. By the seventh month, her words carried a sharper edge. "Other couples who marry at the same time already have babies," she muttered once, folding laundry. Another time during a family gathering, her aunt asked when we were planning for children. She laughed and said, "We're trying." But I could hear the bitterness under her voice. At night, when she thought I was asleep, I sometimes heard her crying softly, and I'd lie there, frozen, unable to comfort her, because how could I tell her the truth? That it wasn't her fault at all, that it was mine. And that fear, that silence, created the perfect breeding ground for what came next. It was around the 8th month of our marriage when something changed. She started acting lighter. The tension that had been choking our home seemed to ease. Her smiles returned, her laughter came back, and the quiet tears at night stopped. I noticed she was cooking more, humming to herself in the kitchen, even wearing the same perfume she wore when we first met. Then one morning, she came to me holding a small plastic stick. Her hands were trembling, but her eyes were shining. "I'm pregnant," she whispered. My world stopped. For a few seconds, I just stared at her, unable to breathe. My heart pounded so hard I thought I might collapse. Pregnant? Pregnant with my child? I pulled her close, kissed her forehead, and for the first time in years, I felt like maybe God had given me a miracle. A second chance. I told her over and over, "Thank you, thank you. You've made me the happiest man alive." And I meant it, with every fiber of my being. But behind my joy, there was something else, too. A quiet whisper, a doubt I refused to listen to. Because deep down, I knew the truth. Miracles like this don't happen. Not to me. Still, I pushed that thought aside. I chose to believe. Her pregnancy became the center of our lives. We shopped for baby clothes, decorated a small room in our house with bright colors, and debated over names again. Every time I touched her growing belly, I told myself, this is my child, my blood, my chance at fatherhood. And then came him. She introduced him one afternoon while I was fixing something outside the house. This is my cousin, she said cheerfully, motioning to a young man who had just arrived. We grew up together. He helps me sometimes with errands. He smiled politely, shook my hand, and called me Kuya, older brother in Tagalog. He seemed harmless enough, always polite, never lingering too long. Sometimes he'd drop by to leave something for her, other times just to chat. I didn't think much of it. After all, families in the Philippines are close-knit, and cousins are like siblings. I wanted to respect that, but soon I began to notice small things. Whenever he arrived, her mood shifted, sometimes to nervousness, sometimes to irritation. If I was home, she'd hurry through their conversations. If I wasn't, he stayed longer. A few times I even caught him slipping her a folded envelope or receiving one from her. When I asked, she brushed it off. He helps me send money to my relatives back in the province. It didn't sit right with me, but I ignored it. I didn't want to be the jealous foreigner who didn't understand Filipino family culture. Then one evening, while watching TV, I heard them outside. Their voices were low at first, but then rose into sharp whispers, almost arguments. I muted the television and listened. You promised. You said the money would be here last week. I told you I don't have it yet. He's been asking questions. Don't play with me. If you don't pay, I'll tell him everything. I swear I will. My chest tightened. My ears rang. I stayed frozen, staring at the blank TV screen, every muscle in my body rigid. So it was true. Not just a suspicion, not just a shadow in my mind. She had been paying him, buying silence, buying loyalty, buying the very child sleeping in the next room. I should have stormed outside, confronted them both, thrown him off my property, screamed at her until my throat tore. But I didn't. I sat there, completely still, the way a man does when his world tilts so violently that moving even an inch might make it shatter completely. And in that silence, the cruelest thought crept in. I already knew. Deep down, I had always known, from the very beginning. From the first lie about pregnancy, from the first time she mentioned him as a cousin, from the way his face twisted whenever he came around. I knew, but I chose not to see it. Because I wanted, no, I needed to believe. A miracle. That's what I had called it. A second chance at life. Proof that maybe God hadn't abandoned me after all, but it wasn't a miracle. It was a transaction. A bargain made in the shadows while I smiled in the light. That night, after they both stormed off in different directions, I sat there for hours. The house silent. My son asleep. My wife pretending to be tired when she finally crept in. I didn't confront her. I didn't mention a single word of what I heard. Because here's the thing. I wasn't ready to let go, not of him, not of being Papa. I went to bed with my back turned to her, and in the dark, with tears soaking the pillow, I whispered to myself, he's still my son. No matter what, he's still mine. But the truth has claws, and once it breaks through, it doesn't let go. You know, this is the part where I really don't know if I did the right thing or if I'm just a fool. Because after everything I found out, after everything I overheard between my wife and that so-called cousin, I didn't confront her. I didn't even let her know that I knew. I just kept going. And here's why. I love that boy, more than I can even explain. He's 6 years old now, and for every one of those years, I've been his father in every way that matters. Except by blood. I paid for his diapers when he was a baby, stayed up through fevers, worked overtime to cover tuition, made sure he had a roof over his head. I taught him to ride a bike. I tucked him in at night. When he calls me Papa, it's like the whole world stops. And now tell me, how do I just throw that away? But at the same time, every day I live with this secret, this weight, this voice in my head asking, are you really his father? Or are you just the man paying for someone else's child? And here's the crazy part. I already know the truth. Deep down, I've always known, and even before the argument outside that night. The doctors told me years ago that I can't father children. I knew I was impotent. And yet, when she told me she was pregnant, I wanted to believe it so badly that I shut my brain off and just grabbed hold of the dream. So now I'm here, 6 years later, asking myself and asking you, what do I do? Do I confront her? Do I look her in the eye and demand the truth I already know? Do I blow up this whole family and risk losing the only child I've ever had, even if he's not mine? Or do I just swallow it, live with it, and treat it like an abortion that never happened? Like the child I never could have, but somehow ended up with anyway? I don't know. Maybe I'm weak. Maybe I'm scared. But I'll tell you this. I don't want to lose him. Not after everything. Not after 6 years of pouring my time, my money, and every ounce of my heart into raising him. And this is the main reason why I'm writing this story to you and other to share on your channel. To know what others would have done or what they want me to do if they were in my position. Please, I urge y'all to be honest, and also I'll appreciate it if you give me reasons for why you say I should do what you ask me to do. My regards.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more amazing content.